Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. If you're a physical therapist or a healthcare practitioner, you already know that getting a patient to actually do their exercises in the clinic, well, that's really only half the battle. The real challenge is what happens when they go home. So today, we're framing our entire session around the concept of control. We're going to explore how we can use digital environments to create what I like to call a therapist dashboard. It's a way to integrate motion-sensing games into your practice, not to replace you, the clinician, but to give you an incredibly powerful tool to guide, customize, and track your patient's recovery like never before.
Okay, let's just dive right into the biggest bottleneck in physical therapy, the deeply frustrating reality of patient adherence. We have literally all been there, right? We design the absolute perfect evidence-based home exercise program. We hand them that printed sheet of stick figure drawings that we know they're going to immediately lose in the backseat of their car, and yet we see conventional therapy dropouts week after week. So why do our patients quit? It's usually not because they don't want to get better. It's because the exercises can be monotonous, lonely, and frankly, painful.
But the solution lies in a pretty staggering data point, 87%. Research shows that home program adherence leaps from a dismal 43% for traditional exercise routines all the way up to an astonishing 87% when therapeutic exercises are gamified. And that difference? That isn't just an incremental improvement. For a patient recovering from a stroke or a severe orthopedic injury, a jump like that is absolutely life-changing. To give you a clear roadmap for this practical guide today, here are the sections we'll be covering. First, the adherence bottleneck. Second, gamification versus serious games. Third, neurological and motor benefits. Fourth, customizing the game environment. Fifth, adapting goals and tracking. And finally, fostering patient autonomy.
The adherence bottleneck. So, why exactly do traditional exercises fail so often? Well, beyond just basic boredom, there's a deeper psychological barrier at play called kinesiophobia. That's the intense fear of movement or re-injury. When a patient is hyper-focused on an injured joint, every standard repetition can induce massive anxiety. But when you compare that 43% traditional adherence directly against the 87% gamified adherence, it proves that well-designed digital therapeutic ecosystems effectively address this crisis. By putting the therapy into an entertaining context, we drastically reduce the mental barriers to home-based exercise.
Section 2. Gamification versus serious games. As we navigate this modern landscape of digital kinematics, we really need a precise clinical taxonomy. These two terms get conflated a lot, but they are very different tools. Gamification relies on extrinsic motivation. It's simply adding points, badges, or a leaderboard to a standard clinical task. Think of it like getting a gold star for doing your standard squats. Serious games, on the other hand, foster intrinsic motivation. They completely immerse the patient in a simulated environment where navigating the virtual challenge physically requires the therapeutic movement. The clinical exercise is intrinsically woven right into the gameplay mechanics itself.
Section 3. Neurological and motor benefits.
These serious games do far more than just entertain patients. They trigger profound physiological responses. I like to think of this as the Trojan horse of therapy. Let's say your patient needs to do a set of 30 squats. In a traditional setting, they are focused internally, monitoring their knee pain, waiting for the discomfort. But what if you immerse them in a game where they're skiing down a virtual mountain and they have to squat to dodge an oncoming tree? Functionally, the biomechanics are identical, but psychologically, entirely different. They are focused externally on the task, completely bypassing that internal pain monitoring.
This shift in focus is incredibly powerful. It actively suppresses pain perception via descending inhibitory pathways. And it gets even more fascinating. When a stroke survivor controls an avatar to catch virtual objects, the visual feedback of that successful virtual movement actually activates their mirror neuron networks. This visual mapping and embodiment literally stimulates neuroplasticity in the brain, driving faster motor recovery. It's honestly mind-blowing stuff.
Section 4. Customizing the game environment.
Now, it is absolutely vital to understand that games do not replace you, the clinician. Instead, they give you a sophisticated dashboard to curate the therapy. You get to match specific functional deficits directly to engaging mechanics. Need to work on shoulder abduction? Use a game that requires grabbing virtual books off a high shelf. Working on weight shifting? Have them dodge oncoming virtual objects. Need to improve elbow flexion and extension? Put a virtual slingshot in their hands. You are prescribing precise, clinical movements hidden perfectly within gameplay.
Setting up a session follows an exact clinical sequence. Step 1, you assess the patient's baseline ability. Step 2, you set the physical constraints within the software. But step 3, choosing the visual style, now that is something uniquely digital. A younger patient might love highly realistic 3D graphics for sure, but older patients or those with cognitive impairments might actually find realistic VR way too overwhelming. For them, selecting a simplified, 2D, cartoon-like visual style improves comprehension and keeps them engaged without causing visual overload.
And here is where your dashboard really shines. These controls allow you to adjust the speed of incoming obstacles, set the required range of motion, or restrict gameplay completely to a paretic left arm. Crucially, if you notice a patient starting to fatigue or use compensatory behaviors, like, hiking their shoulder instead of raising their arm, you can instantly intervene. You adjust the difficulty on the fly or deploy a pause function to correct their form before they reinforce bad habits.
Section 5. Adapting goals and tracking.
This technology acts like a background kinematics lab, turning gameplay output into incredibly valuable clinical data. We translate traditional metrics directly into game data. A higher game score? That indicates a better response to challenging tasks. The time spent playing? That translates directly to endurance and reps. What about the virtual distance their avatar's limb covered? That shows us their real-world muscle engagement and effort. And if the system logs frequent, jerky direction changes, that immediately gives you clinical insight into movement inaccuracies or tremors.
Section 6. Fostering patient autonomy. Ultimately, the absolute end goal of any rehabilitation program is empowering patients to safely and confidently take charge of their own home-based recovery. To understand why exergames work so well for this, we have to look at self-determination theory. It's the psychological drive that fuels human motivation, requiring a person to feel autonomous, competent, and connected. We tap into this by letting a patient, say a stroke survivor, choose their own avatar or pick which virtual environment they want to train in that day. Just giving them those simple choices builds massive intrinsic motivation and fulfills their need for autonomy.
Now, safety is obviously paramount. You're probably wondering, how do we keep him safe in their own living rooms without us standing right there? Well, these exergames rely on strict system calibration that adjusts the movement boundaries to match the individual's specific mobility capacity. Even patients with critical conditions can complete all game levels within their personalized, safe range of motion. It completely prevents overexertion and pain while still ensuring they get the job done.
But let's be real for a second. As this quote from recent research perfectly highlights, technology is merely a tool. Patients themselves note that these games simply cannot replace the essential role of therapist supervision. You remain the vital core of this process. You're the one prescribing the game, moderating the difficulty, assessing the data, and most importantly, guiding the actual human being behind the avatar.
Which leads us to our final thought. If a carefully calibrated game dashboard can essentially double a patient's home adherence while seamlessly offering you precise biomechanical tracking, isn't it time we rewrite the rules of clinical engagement? By embracing these digital tools, we aren't just making therapy fun, we're fundamentally leveling up the science of physical rehabilitation. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I hope this gives you some fantastic, practical ideas to integrate into your own clinic.